Mr. Mercer, would you please read the statement to bring us back into open session?
Yes, Chair Swigert. I move that the record shows that the only items discussed in the closed meeting were those specifically cited in the motion to convene into the closed meeting and those lawfully exempted from statutory meeting requirements.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Boone. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
Dr. Cotton, do you have items resulting from closed session?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. I recommend that student number 1 be expelled as discussed.
I'll entertain a motion for approval. Moved by Mr. McCormick. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Lamonia. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
If there are no additional items, we'll move on to the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. At this time, I'd like to call upon Rabbi Israel Zoberman from Temple Lev Tikva, who will give the opening invocation. Afterward, I'll ask Morgan Perry, a 5th grader from Cedar Road Elementary, to lead us in the pledge. Please stand as you are able.
Good to be back home in this sanctuary of sorts. Dear Chesapeake education leaders, friends, our one loving God who brings us joyfully together to be one caring family, gratefully united and gloriously diverse through the divine commandments of graceful kindness, allowing the United States, a nation of nations, to become the world's leading power and a guiding beacon of precious freedom and embracing democracy. Following a celebrated season of holy lights and consecrated prayers, with a new year of challenge and opportunity, let us give thanks for the lasting gift of the complex, though essential, educational process that we are all dedicated to. The blessed gateway to unlocking the awesome creativity within all humans, that we, society and humanity, may all flourish. Students and families, teachers and administrators, along with the entire staff and community that it takes to educate but one successful young person, are all covenanted to turn blemishes into blessings, pain into promise, violence into vision, and darkness into enlightenment. Ever mindful that each student is created in God's own sacred image, with deserving equal appreciation, support, and respect, with shalom's undying healing, hope, and harmony for all of God's yearning children. And let us say, individually and collectively, Amen, and so may it be. And thank you for all that you do.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you to Rabbi Zuberman and to Morgan for taking time out of your schedules to be with us this evening. Next on our agenda is the reorganization of the board. I will ask the superintendent to assist. Dr. Cotton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Code of Virginia calls for each local school board in the Commonwealth at its annual meeting to elect officers. School board policy calls for the superintendent to preside over this portion of the meeting, dealing with the election of the chair and the vice chair. It is my pleasure to perform that duty. At the conclusion of this election, I will then be more than happy to turn the meeting over to the newly elected chair, who will continue with the reorganization of the board. To begin, I will quickly review our process for elections. Each office will be voted upon individually. We'll start with the chair, then move to the vice chair. In order to be placed before the board for consideration for an office, an individual must first be nominated by a fellow board member, and the nomination must receive a second. Once all candidates for that office have been nominated, the board will vote for candidates in order of nominations by a show of hands. Does the board have any questions about the process? Okay, we've been through this before. All right, let's begin with the election of the chair. Are there any nominations for the office of chairman for the school board?
Dr. Cotton, I hereby nominate the Honorable Angie Swaggart to be our chairwoman of the board.
Thank you. Angie Swaggart has been duly nominated. Is there a second? Okay. We have received a second. Are there any other nominations for the office of chair? Hearing none, we will move on to the vote. All those in favor of Angie Swaggart as chairman of the Chesapeake School Board, please indicate by a show of hands. Any opposed? And Dr. Smith?
Motion carries with a vote of 8 to 1, with Board Member Dean voting in opposition.
Okay, thank you. Let the record show that Mrs. Angie Swaggart has been elected as chair to serve in this capacity through December of 2024. Congratulations, Madam Chair. Not done yet. So moving on to the office of vice chair. Are there any nominations for the office of vice chair for the Chesapeake School Board? Chair Swaggart.
I would like to nominate Tom Mercer to continue in the role of vice chair.
Okay, Tom Mercer has been nominated. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now we've got 2 seconds. So Tom Mercer has been duly nominated and seconded for the office of vice chairman. Are there any other nominations for vice chairman? Ms. Dean?
Yes, I would like to honor Mr. Mercer's wishes, as he stated in December, for not seeking the nomination, and therefore I would like to nominate Dr. Brittany Walker for vice chair.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, not seeing a second. We will move on to the vote. At this time, Tom Mercer has been duly nominated and seconded for the office of vice chair. All those in favor of Tom Mercer as vice chairman for the Chesapeake School Board, please indicate a show of hands by showing your hands. Okay. Any opposed, like sign? Okay. Dr. Smith?
Motion carries with a vote of 8 to 1, with Board Member Dean voting in opposition.
Okay, let the record show that Tom Mercer has been elected as vice chair and will serve in this capacity through December of 2024. Congratulations, Mr. Vice Chair. And with that, I am more than happy to turn the meeting over to our newly elected chair, Madam Chair Swaggart.
Thank you. To continue the reorganization, I will entertain a motion for the appointments of clerk, deputy clerk, agent, and deputy agent. I make a motion that we nominate, can I make the motion? I can, right? No?
I make a motion to nominate Dr. Angela Smith as clerk, Mrs. Darlene Gorman, deputy clerk, Dr. Jarrett Cotton as fiscal agent, and Ms. Victoria Lacente as deputy fiscal agent. Is there a second?
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Poole. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
There being no awards and recognitions this evening, we will move on to hearing of citizens. During their allotted time, speakers should observe our rules of decorum and know that expression of concerns and criticisms on matters of school policy and operations is welcome. While the speaker's own comments are welcome, they may not play pre-recorded messages. Dr. Smith, are there any citizens who have requested time to speak this evening?
Yes, Chair Swaggart, we have 5 citizens requesting time to speak.
Thank you. I want to thank those speakers who've signed up to address the board this evening. There are 2 ways that citizens can request time to speak at the meeting. You can call the clerk's office before 12 noon the day of the meeting, or sign up to speak prior to the start of the meeting. All in-person requests to speak must be submitted to the deputy clerk 5 minutes prior to the published meeting start time. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. Once your allotted time is over, we ask that you promptly exit the podium. You may choose to sit in the boardroom if seats are available, but standing or sitting on the floor will not be permitted, and you may not block the exit doors. We would also like to ask that you refrain from any behavior that disrupts the meeting, including the use of profanity, applause, cheering, or jeering. Dr. Smith, please call the first speaker.
Yes, I'd like to invite speaker number 1 to the podium. Speakers are called in numerical order and are asked to state their name and city of residence before they begin.
Vic Nichols, Chesapeake. I'd like to honor Samia Bird of Arlington. The Program for International Student Assessment a week ago revealed a significant decline in math scores for 15-year-olds in the U.S. compared to 2018, which was the last test administration. This measures student achievement in math and sciences in 37 countries. Our overall score is 18th. We're behind Poland and Estonia. What steps are being taken to get us back to where we were pre-COVID? As truancy is a huge factor, is Chesapeake getting back to its pre-COVID actions on it? They made a huge difference. How can we verify that specific books are not in any school libraries? Holly Bourne, best-selling British author, detailed in an article how porn use among kids is creating a toxic rape culture and sexual violence culture that makes life unbearable for teen girls. Be things that she would get caught with is, I'm 14 and my boyfriend wants anal in a car park where people watch. I'm scared to get strangled, but everyone else is doing it. This is what the current sex education does. These are the effects. And there's more, which I will continue later because it can't go within 3 minutes. But I want you to seriously, we need, COVID's over. We need to get on this. Because some of the comments, what I just read is one thing. This lady is even saying she's had to cancel the rapist boys because they don't understand why the girls don't want to have anything to do with them, why they can't stand them. And they said that's because basically what the girls would describe was rape, sexual violence. That is what happens. We need to take a good look now at what things are going on and making sure that these kids get the education that we get back up to where we should be. Thank you.
Speaker number 2, I'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and your city of residence before you begin.
Good evening. Margie Hayes, Virginia Beach, Virginia, and Melinda Gaynor, Chesapeake, Virginia. My name is Dr. Margie Hayes, president of the Omicron Pi Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Our sorority is an international service organization that was founded on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. in 1908. It is the oldest Greek letter organization established by African American college-educated women. One of our mission statements is to be of service to all mankind, and I would ask that our members please stand. Our chapter was chartered 40 years ago in the city of Chesapeake. One of our goals has been to engage in the service activities and increase our presence in the city of Chesapeake. To support this goal, our chapter has determined that we will be intentional in supporting students in Chesapeake Public Schools. We want you to know that when you see us at school board meetings, we are here to learn more about the needs of the schools to allow us to see how we as a chapter can do our part to support. I would like to turn the podium over to Ms. Melinda Gaynor, our foundation president.
Ma'am, are you, I apologize. Are you signed up to be our third speaker?
She's two of the two.
I think our policy requires.
They're limited to 3 minutes. So if they can
speak
if they
and share
can
the 3
finish,
minutes?
then they can,
Okay.
but they're limited to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. As the foundation president, the Chesapeake Pearls Foundation was founded in the city of Chesapeake in 2007. We have been in service for 16 years in connection with the Omicron Pi Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We've served over 3,000 hours in the community. We've provided over $150,000 in scholarships, largely supporting students within the city of Chesapeake. Last year, we awarded $25,000 in scholarships, and we also provided elementary school outreach in May at Title I schools, having little girls from the elementary school. We had about 80 girls who attended with their guardians the Little Mermaid. This year, we have 26 applicants from the 7 high schools in the city of Chesapeake who are seeking scholarship from our organization. We currently have budgeted $14,000 for Chesapeake Public Schools. Of course, that number could increase as our ticket sales increase for our scholarship event. This year, our presenter will be poet Nikki Giovanni. We think that will be a great opportunity for students within the Chesapeake public school systems who are within the English departments on the junior high and high school level to attend this event. This event will be in Norfolk, Virginia at the Attucks, at the historic Attucks Theater. We do have flyers here to share with you all, and I'm not sure how to give those to you, but we do have flyers here to share for the event. Thank you.
Speaker number 3, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jeremy Rodden. I'm from Chesapeake. I came here tonight in my capacity as the co-founder and secretary of Pride in the Peak. But before I read the statement that we have from Pride in the Peak, I did want to kind of make a personal plea to you guys. Having run for office against, well, or at least at the same time as 6 of you up there back in 22, I do honestly think that none of you up there actively want to harm any children. I truly believe that. I know you guys don't think so. So as for the statement, as some of you may know, Pride in the Peak is a 501c3 nonprofit created to provide Chesapeake youth and family with a safe, family-friendly Pride event each June that does not include adult themes or alcohol. Additionally, we advocate year-round for the equality and equity of LGBTQIA+ youth throughout the city of Chesapeake. We are writing you in regards to the proposed policy changes presented in the information agenda during the December 11th, 2023 board meeting, intended to align Chesapeake Public Schools policies with Governor Youngkin's model policies on ensuring privacy, dignity, and respect for all students and parents in Virginia Public Schools. More specifically, we're referring to the policies under Code 6-40 and 6-41.1. These policies, as written, contain discriminatory language that can contribute to the depression and anxiety that lead to suicidal ideation and suicide attempts among LGBTQIA+ youth, especially transgender and non-binary youth. According to the Trevor Project's 2022 data, 43% of Virginia's LGBTQIA+ youth seriously considered suicide in the past year. It goes up to 53% for transgender and non-binary youth. It is hypocritical and dangerous that the model policy claims to be ensuring privacy, dignity, and respect for all students, when the language specifically discriminates against a single demographic, assuring that transgender and non-binary youth have less privacy, dignity, and respect than their peers. The language in Code 641.1 creates exceptions for parental consent to use nicknames or self-selected alternate names in some courses, while simultaneously requiring consent for the use of names and pronouns different from a student's legal identifiers. This explicitly creates an environment where transgender and non-binary youth will feel unwelcome in their schools. It will inherently violate their personal dignity. We implore you to not implement these policies. If Chesapeake Public Schools truly wants to ensure the privacy, dignity, and respect for all students, it cannot establish policies that directly do the opposite for an entire demographic of the student population that is already in the highest levels of vulnerability when it comes to suicidality. Thank you.
Speaker number 4, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Jocelyn Garcia, Chesapeake. I'm a sophomore at Hickory High School. I stand before you as one of the many students, siblings, and athletes in Chesapeake with the request that we include mental health days in the upcoming school year. Positive mental health attention hasn't always been present in our society. The movement for global mental health launched in October of 2008, making it even younger than I am. For a long time, mental illness seemed like something only adults could struggle with. Though our responsibilities vary from some that adults have, the results of stress are still the same. As students, we receive multiple assignments, all due by the next day, across vastly different subjects, and despite the immense amounts of work we receive, students are also expected to maintain a social life, keep up at home, and perform well in practice. All in all, it's stressful, so much so that an estimated 49.5% of adolescents have had a mental health disorder. As of right now, Virginia is one of the few states across the country that accept mental health days as an excused absence. However, many students don't have the privilege of taking this advantage because of our very limited 9 excused absence policy. Not to mention, when compared to the attendance policy put out by Portsmouth, Norfolk, and Virginia Beach, we are the only one of those cities who only includes mental health appointments, not mental health illness. So what can we do to make it work? Mental health days would be extremely beneficial to both students who have mental health disorders and those who just experience high levels of stress or anxiety. Child Mind Institute says when a child has been pushing through challenges and is feeling drained, a break is not only a good idea, it's necessary. As previously stated, many Chesapeake students don't have the luxury of taking a day off solely for mental health resources. Due to our new 9-13 policy about attendance, absences are now counted by the block rather than over the day as a whole. This leads to a large amount of absences, racking up alarmingly fast. I believe that we should allow students to have 3 mental health days a semester in addition to our 9-day excused absence policy. I know the immediate concern is, well, what if a student chooses to use this time to go on vacation or hang out with friends? And though we may not be adults, we are still people. We deserve to have breaks from continuous work or activity, even if it is just to take a step back from a learning environment. These mental health days would last for an entire school day, so they can't just be an excuse for being late to class. Not to mention, they couldn't all be used simultaneously. That way, they stay mental health days, not a mental health week. Even if a student took the combined time of 24 days off, they're still in class for well over 150 days. Teen mental health is on a decline in the U.S., but myself, along with so many others all over the country, believe that this is just one small step in the right direction, and I hope you'll join me in being a part of it. Thank you.
Speaker number 5, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Happy New Year. My name is Amanda Raymond, and I am a resident of Chesapeake. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Cotton, and division staff. Recently, we received an email sharing that the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services and the Virginia Department of Education will be conducting a Virginia school survey of climate and working conditions. Students in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades at my son's school will be participating later this month. You may already know, but the purpose of this study is to measure student support, student engagement, school discipline, and safety conditions at each school. The survey will ask students about how they feel about their school, how they get along with each other and their teachers, and their perceptions of their teachers' willingness to help them. There will also be general questions about mental health, bullying, and suicide. The survey is intended to be anonymous and will collect important information that will shape healthy and safe school environments. I'm speaking to you tonight to ask about accommodations and possibly modifications that will make this survey accessible for all students. Does the division have a plan to allow students with disabilities to access the survey and meaningfully participate? I will share that I have reached out to our assistant principal and the director of exceptional learning, and I will be speaking with them in the near future. However, I wanted to make sure that this board was aware that while it seems like a mundane request, students with disabilities may require accommodations and possible modifications to allow them to participate in the survey. They are entitled to the same comfortability and anonymity that all other students are afforded, but current support offered in the school environment may not precipitate the same conditions allowing for students with disabilities to answer freely and meaningfully. I ask that for future activities that are offered to all students be given consideration on how to make it more accessible for students with disabilities, and that this board and division staff consult with their SEAC and the Office of Exceptional Learning to accomplish this. Accessibility should not have to be sought after, but be offered to anyone who needs it. Thank you for your time and consideration.
This concludes our speakers for this evening.
Thank you all for sharing your comments. Our practice is to receive information. However, we do not usually engage in dialogue, and that is our intent tonight. If appropriate and not already provided, someone from the superintendent's staff will evaluate your concern and provide a response. We will now move on to the consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lamonia. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
We're now moving on to the information agenda. The first item is the governor's budget update. Ms. Lucente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask Ms. Glod to come up to the Director of Budget to come up to the podium. She'll do a brief presentation on what we know about the governor's caboose bill, and the governor's proposal for next year. It's looking very similar to last year as far as what could be potential disagreements between the General Assembly and the governor as far as tax rate cuts and uses of available funds. So we're hoping that by mid-March, which is the end of the session, that they actually have a budget. So Ms. Glaude will give you an update.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Swigert, Vice Chair Mercer, and school board members. Tonight's presentation on the governor's budget update will be slightly different than in the past, as the Virginia Department of Education just released its calculation templates late last Thursday evening. As a reminder, these templates are used to determine the district's projected revenues resulting from budget bills. Therefore, the revenue and program impact on the governor's proposed budget remains under review. So this presentation will provide a general overview of the governor's proposed budget bills released on December 20th based upon a qualitative review of available information. This will include an overview of his proposed budget amendments to fiscal year 2024 of the 2022 to 2024 biennial budget, which is also referred to as the caboose bill, and his proposed budget for the 2024 to 2026 biennium. Again, since the calculation templates are currently under review, tonight's presentation is for information only. The governor's proposed caboose bill is mostly technical updates for direct aid to public education. This includes updating student enrollment to reflect a decline in enrollment, updating incentive and lottery-supported programs to account for participation declines, and updating sales tax revenue and lottery proceeds based on the latest estimates. In an early review of the data, the technical updates look to negatively impact Chesapeake by about $1 million. Now turning to the governor's proposed 2024 to 2026 biennial budget, an adjustment will be made to account for K through 12 re-benchmarking. Re-benchmarking occurs at the start of every biennial period and is used to determine updated costs for the state and accounts for changes in a locality's ability to support its costs of maintaining an educational program that meets Virginia's SOQ requirements. The locality's ability to pay is measured using the local composite index. Chesapeake's LCI, its ability to support its share of SOQ funding, is declining by 3.8% from 0.3403 to 0.3273, which means greater state support. As a reminder, the city funds schools under the revenue sharing formula, and this funding is well in excess of the required minimum based on the LCI. So for CPS, a lower LCI relates more to access to state funding than any changes in the amount provided by the city. Additionally, technical updates will be made to account for projected budget variables such as sales tax revenues, lottery proceeds, student enrollment, and program utilization. The governor's proposed budget excludes the supplemental payment used to offset the reduction in sales tax on food and personal hygiene products. However, it adjusts to account for changes in state tax. Details on the impact of the changes in state tax, including rate and base, and the allocation for K through 12 continue to be reviewed. But greater information is needed at this time to understand the assumptions used in the calculation templates. As for salary adjustments, the proposed budget includes a 1% bonus effective in fiscal year 2025 and a 2% salary increase for fiscal year 2026. Additional funding is also provided to support an increase in the standard for reading specialist staffing through the 8th grade. Furthermore, the proposed budget includes grant funding for the Diploma Plus program, which will allow students to earn industry-recognized credentials in addition to their diplomas upon graduation. Stay tuned as more information will be provided once we have developed a greater understanding of the impact of the governor's budget on Chesapeake's revenues and programs. Thank you for your time this evening. We're happy to take any questions you may have.
I see no questions at this time. Thank you, Ms. Glide.
Thank you.
The last item on the information agenda is the ESSER 3 update. Dr. Austin.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we have a brief presentation for you where we are proposing some changes to our ESSER 3 grant. To that end, what we've looked at, and Ms. Lucenti has been very creative in this, is we're looking at presenting a retention as well as a hiring bonus for 3 employee groups. Now, we've provided some data for you in the next slide that share some details about current staffing. And you can see with these employee groups, we have some significant vacancies. And I'll say from an HR standpoint, we have made a concerted effort to both retain employees with your assistance, went through the budgetary process with hourly rates, but also with some incentives. So, but with those efforts, and I'm going to say some extra efforts with providing one-stop shops, you've probably seen different job fairs that we've been doing. Even with those efforts, you can see with these groups, we still have some hiring challenges as well as some retention challenges. So we've identified these as critical shortage areas because of the roles these individuals play. It dramatically impacts our operations on a daily basis. So it's not just this group that impacts students, there's others. And we don't mean as an administration to devalue what our other employees do, but these 3 groups, we really have significant challenges with hiring. If you'll go to the next slide. So what we're proposing for bus drivers, custodians, and school nutrition workers, now this is not all school nutrition staff, just the ones specifically that are identified as workers, we're recommending a retention bonus. And how that retention bonus would work is if you are hired by December 21st last year, you would receive a $2,000 bonus on February 15th. If you stay employed with Chesapeake Public Schools, then you would receive a $500 bonus in March, April, May, and June. So that is what we're planning to do, which would be a total of $4,000 for our current employees. From a recruitment standpoint, what we're proposing is if you were hired or offered to be hired from January 1st on, then what we would do is you would be eligible for a $500 bonus in March, again in April, again in May, and again in June. So you'd be eligible for a maximum of $2,000 if you come to Chesapeake Public Schools and are willing to work in one of these 3 employee groups. So we see this as a tremendous recruitment effort, but then also a recognition of the effort that these groups have put in to serve our students and to serve our staff, serve our community, but then also this is something going forward. Now, if an employee, of course, leaves us at any point, they wouldn't be eligible for the next bonus. If you are hired by February 15th, so from January 2nd through February 15th, if you're hired, you would be eligible for the bonus in March. So March 15th, you'd be eligible. If you're hired on February 16th, you'd be eligible for the bonus in April. So basically, you have to work the month to be eligible for the bonus. So again, really appreciate Ms. Lucenti being creative with this ESSER application that we'll be following with the Department of Education. If you go to the next slide. These are items I've already discussed, but this will be eligible for all the full-time employees in these groups will be eligible, as well as other qualifying school nutrition staff. More details to come on that. We'll work with Mr. Wade and his team on that. So we're thrilled to be able to offer this both to our current employees as well as anybody who's considering these occupations with us. So be glad to address any questions. Or Dr. Cotton, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the board, we do need to submit, if the board is in agreement with us pursuing this, we will need to submit an amendment to our ESSER application. And again, this is something that we're planning to do to help us over the next several months with these critical shortage areas. I also want to let you know that as we move into the budget process, we have got to address salaries of these groups as well moving forward so that we can be more competitive in recruiting folks for these positions as we move into next year. But I'm hopeful that the board is in agreement with us moving forward with this because we do want to acknowledge our employees who are with us. We do have a recruitment challenge, but we also have a retention challenge, which is why we are doing a retention bonus and a recruitment bonus, because one of the things we've learned is as we hire 5, we're losing 5 in some cases. So we do want to hold on to our valued employees who've been working hard while we're adding to our employee pool. And we're hopeful that the board feels like this is a good path for us to pursue.
Mr. Mercer?
Yeah, thank you for Dr. Bryan and Ms. Lucente for your creativity on this, and I hope the ESSER funds get approved for this. I also want to thank you for the retention bonuses, because I see this in bonus situations, many places hiring bonuses, and that it can cause some ill will when there's a bonus for people who are new coming on, and we don't appreciate the people that are already in the trenches, especially in these difficult jobs. And so I think this is a wise decision to have the retention and the bonuses for new hires. So thank you. I support this wholeheartedly.
Dr. Walker?
Yeah, I echo everything Mr. Mercer just said. And also I just want to say thank you to all the people who are filling those positions currently, because I know bus drivers, you've been doubling back and doing double routes, and other people have taken on additional responsibilities to help us keep moving on the day-to-day. So thank you, and I hope that this will be able to help you.
Mr. McCormick?
Dr. Austin, this may be better directed to Ms. Lucente, but you guys can decide which one
We can share a mic.
is in better position. First question is about, so this would be funded by ESSER funds wholly?
Yes, sir.
And that's a one-time fund?
Yes, sir.
Is the plan or hope to continue this type of bonus program with other funds, or what's the outlook?
To Dr. Cotton's point, what I think we would recommend is address this through the upcoming budget process with the hourly rate, as well as some of the structures of their contracts with both the number of days and the number of hours that they work every day. So we're taking, I'm going to say, creative approaches on both of those, but of course we'll be presenting that in the coming couple of months.
And then in looking at how many vacancies there are, it looks like a total of about 271. That's a lot of unused funds, because obviously we budgeted that those positions would be filled, and that's probably, I don't know, $6 or $7 million just right there. Can we use those funds to fund bonuses, or maybe become more realistic next year on how many people we can actually hire and increase the offering for the people that we, for a lower amount of people, I guess?
Some of those funds have been absorbed in non-personnel cost increases. They've also been absorbed by not as much attrition, because our average new hire was a lot higher than it's been in the past in some of the other positions. So it's all, and as you remember, we also had a decline in enrollment, so we had to adjust the numbers there. So every month we monitor all this stuff to see what kind of room we have. So I would like to say yes, but the answer is no, because it's been absorbed elsewhere in other costs. Because we've suffered from the same fuel increases, utility increases, paper increases that were budgeted 15 months ago. So some of those costs are coming in higher than what we budgeted.
All right.
And overtime, you're right, because we've had, yeah, that's true. I'm glad you reminded me of that. We've had more overtime in the past than in the past, because employee groups like the custodians are doubling up. Bus drivers are filling in school nutrition, TAs are doing, and security guards are doing bus runs, or they're doing, other activities. So that ends up increasing our overtime costs also, because they're already 40-hour positions.
Thank you.
I know, yeah. Love my job.
I think I see no other questions at this time, so thank you for that update. Dr. Cotton, am I correct that we don't need to vote, but that you do need a head nod?
Just a head nod to know that the board feels comfortable with moving forward, and we will go ahead and apply based on what I'm hearing. We'll apply for the amendment, and then we'll update you once we get that response.
Thank you. We will now move on to the action agenda, beginning with the appointment of board representatives. Annually, the chair appoints school board members to various bodies where the board member represents and acts on behalf of the school board. A copy of these appointments is available in board docs for review. Are there any questions about the proposed appointments, which I believe everybody has seen to this point? Okay. I'll entertain a motion for approval. So moved by Mr. Mercer. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Lamonia. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
The next item on the action agenda is the proposed 2024-2025 school calendar. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Swigert. The results are in, and tonight we have Mrs. Fallon Graham back to share our final calendar recommendations for the 24-25 school year based on stakeholder feedback. So at this time, I will turn things over to Mrs. Graham.
Good evening, Chair Swigert, Vice Chair Mercer, and members of the board. Tonight, I will present to you the survey feedback for the proposed 24-25 academic calendar. As you know, we presented a draft of the calendar at the December meeting and provided an opportunity for stakeholders to provide feedback through December 22nd. The survey began by asking, from what perspectives are you completing this feedback form? And respondents were encouraged to check all that apply. In total, the survey recorded 2,771 responses, with some respondents selecting multiple options as their perspective. The largest subset of survey participants were parents, making up 62.6% of the responses. 29.3% of the responses came from employees, and 6.5% of the participants were students. To analyze the open-ended questions, we searched for common themes. When a subset of respondents answered in a similar way, a theme emerged. The themes we are presenting do not represent how all respondents answered, but instead reflect how a significant subset responded. When asked, what do you like about the proposed calendar, common themes were found. Overall, a significant subset of respondents in each category favored a post-Labor Day start. Both parents and employees liked having elementary workdays scheduled on Fridays, and they appreciated the early dismissal days in June. Students reported that they like how teacher workdays provide breaks for them throughout the year. When asked, what changes would you make to the proposed calendar? Resoundingly, participants, especially students, expressed a desire for longer breaks. Many suggested starting school earlier to accommodate longer breaks, and parents disliked the early dismissal days before holidays. Next, we asked about our calendar principles. When asked, what do you think needs to be considered in addition to the calendar principles when designing an academic calendar, all stakeholders would like to prioritize longer breaks. Parents and employees suggested we consider starting school before Labor Day. Parents also appreciate that students are not present during elections, and students asked that mental health for both students and teachers be considered when designing a calendar each year. We received a number of questions regarding calendar development, and I want to provide some additional information for clarification. The Code of Virginia sets the expectation that the standard school year shall be a minimum of 180 instructional days or 990 instructional hours. Chesapeake, we use the 990-hour requirement to fill this expectation at all levels. However, the 180-day expectation is met at the middle and high school level. The elementary total is reduced by 3 days to allow for those additional elementary-only teacher workdays. Credit-bearing courses are held to an additional standard. The Code of Virginia declares that a credit is awarded for a course in which a student successfully completes 140 clock hours of instruction. That's the equivalent of 8,400 instructional minutes, and we make each and every minute count. Currently, our high school students follow a 4x4 schedule, allowing them to take 8 courses per year, which is a distinct advantage over divisions who are only able to offer 7 courses per year. This advantage makes it difficult to meet the 140 clock hour requirement, but we make it happen with only 4.9 hours to spare per class. As you can imagine, these code requirements make this a difficult process, and one which the results in the end are not always pleasing to everyone, but we do give it our best shot. So based on the feedback, we did develop a new calendar option for your consideration. Therefore, tonight, we bring forth option B for your consideration. In response to a significant number of responses requesting extended breaks and the removal of early dismissal days, calendar option B was developed. Option B is available for review in board docs and also at your table tonight. While both calendars begin on the same day, the last day of school in option A is June 13th, while in option B, it is June 17th. In order to accommodate the extension of Thanksgiving break and winter break, the school year had to be lengthened by 3 additional days. Starting the school year earlier was not considered because informing our community of this change at this point in the year does not provide adequate notice for our stakeholders. In option A, Thanksgiving break begins with an early dismissal day, followed by a 2-day break. In option B, it extends the break by 1 day, making November 27th a full day off. Option A, winter break, begins with an early dismissal on December 20th, followed by an 8-day break through January 1st. Option B removes the early dismissal day, but extends the break by 2 days, providing a 10-day winter break beginning December 23rd and ending on January 3rd. Spring break remains the same in both calendar options and aligns with our neighboring districts with published calendars. Both options include 10 teacher workdays, including 2 workdays at the semester change in January. However, as you can see here, 3 of those workdays now fall on different calendar dates in the new option. For example, the workday that falls on Wednesday, April 2nd in option A now shifts to Friday, April 4th in option B. But the elementary-only workdays remain the same in both options. The most significant change comes at the end of the school year. In option A, early dismissal days fall on June 11th and June 12th, the 12th being the last day of school. In the new option, the early dismissal days are included in June, but the last day of school falls on June 17th. This creates a difference in our graduation schedule as well. In option A, graduations will be held Wednesday through Friday, June 11th, 12th, and 13th, while in option B, graduations will be held Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, June 16th, 17th, and 18th, respectively. I'd like to note that in order to establish quarters with evenly distributed dates, we were not able to make the workday in April line up with spring break. This concludes my presentation for the survey feedback and a new calendar option for consideration. May I answer any questions for you at this time?
Mr. Mercer?
Yes. Well, we got some options here. Should we send them out for feedback just like the others were sent out?
We can certainly take care of that.
Okay. I'm just thinking, does everybody understand what I'm asking? I think we want the stakeholders to have some say in this before we make an absolute decision, and especially since it's extending the school year a couple of days in June. I understand your situation at the beginning because I know, like Ms. Stutz has already got people getting ready to work on school buildings and everything. And I tell you, that extra week that you're talking about doing away with. But I think, we probably have to review very soon just to make sure we're in current. We in Suffolk are the last 2 that have post-Labor Day. And I agree with it. But I know I've always said if the will of the people is to do post-Labor Day, I'll hold my nose and vote for it pre-Labor Day. But I used to do it as a kid. That's how old I am. I can remember when we went to school before Labor Day. But there are some logistical problems for Ms. Stutz and for her contracts that she has out there because a lot of times they're right down to the last minute, especially with HVAC and roofing and everything else that's going on. So I don't think on this particular one that it's a viable option to look at pre. It may be on future calendars. And Dr. Cotton, is there a way of maybe looking at these calendars a little bit earlier coming up?
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that. We actually are going to back up our process so that we can make these decisions much earlier. We actually were considering a 2-year approval just to give enough notice, but we didn't want to overcomplicate. We feel strongly that we don't want to consider a pre-Labor Day start without plenty of notice. So one of the things we want to do is get through this calendar and then probably early in the school year, September timeframe, we're going to start working on the next one so that we can give much more notice.
Well, while I know that I saw the I think there are some people who want to have a pre-Labor Day. You saw in this survey alone that it was, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but a good majority of folks thought the calendar was positive because it had an after Labor Day start as
Yes,
well.
that was one of the themes that emerged.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we can have a survey out tomorrow with part of the family update and have it open through January 22nd.
You can do that fast?
Oh, yes.
You're amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are prepared to put out, if the board wants us to consider this option B, we can put out a survey that just simply will ask our community how they feel about option A and option B, and we can have that information for the board to consider at the end of the month.
Well, I'm just one member, so I think that needs to be a consensus of the board, but that's my personal opinion.
I'd personally like to add that Ms. Graham and her team are amazing with or without the ability to do this survey tomorrow, but I agree. I personally agree that while this new option is based in large part on feedback that was given, I do believe as it being a brand new option that we do need the survey to make sure that everybody, our stakeholders, have had a chance to weigh in on this version and make sure that, in theory, when they see what it looks like in reality, that it is something that a majority would want us to impose. So, I'm certainly going to open the floor to any other questions, but it seems to me like I would certainly be advocating for delaying a vote on this tonight until we've had the chance to get that feedback. Mr. Mercer?
I hate to belabor this, but one of the things that I've heard from people out in the community, just in looking at this with the feedback, is the question of 180 days. And you answered it very well tonight about the 4.5 hours. And it really is a problem in the block scheduling, and that we are able to offer, unlike some school systems that have a traditional bell schedule throughout the year with 7 courses, we're able to offer 8. So there's really some more academic ability to be able to be well prepared. But I think that's noticed. Now, if I read this right, at the elementary level, because of those teacher work days, it actually is 177 days, but we make up for that in the number of minutes.
Absolutely. Yes. We exceed 990 hours at the elementary level.
It's the problem is at the high school level, and it has to be at 180 days. So therefore, we're able to use those other 3 days as something that my former colleague, Colleen Leary, used to always bring before, because she had been an elementary principal and elementary teacher, is that those elementary work days, because she kept saying, there are break times. You're in the block scheduling, you do 3, and then you have a break unless you do an extra block that you teach. But elementary teachers don't have that opportunity.
Right.
And Mr. Mercer, you are correct. We used to do 8 to 10 early release days for elementary, and we received feedback that the elementary teachers preferred not to do the early release because typically they were busy trying to make sure all students got home safely, especially students who were delayed with pickups and so forth. And they really felt like they weren't getting that time. So we decided to give them those 3 days, which ends up probably being comparable to the time they would have had for those early release days. But the elementary more than meets the 990 minutes.
Seeing no other additional comments at the time, but because, of course, the action of asking the department to do a survey would be a direction from the will of the board. I just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to at least nod in the direction that is something that a majority wants. So it looks like we have our marching orders. Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Graham.
you.
We will now move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Cotton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I have a few important dates to share with you this evening. The Chesapeake Career Center will be holding an open house on January 11th, 2024. From 5 to 8 p.m. This is an exciting opportunity for high school students to learn more about the programs offered at CCC. Also, January 14th through the 20th, 2024 is recognized as Virginia School Principals Week. We look forward to this opportunity to thank our incredible principals and assistant principals for all that they do, and of course we have plans to recognize them during that week. All schools and offices will be closed on Monday, January 15th, 2024, in observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, just to make sure everyone's aware of that. And lastly, the joint meeting with City Council scheduled for January 18th, 2024 at City Hall has been canceled. As board members know, we're working on an opportunity for city council members to visit some of our schools instead, and we'll be working on putting that together and provide more information as it becomes available. So with that, I'll move on to my spotlight for this evening. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone had an opportunity to celebrate the season with family and friends, and to also hopefully get a little much needed rest over the winter break. It continues to be my honor and privilege to present my Superintendent Spotlight to you at each board meeting to celebrate the incredible work of our student, staff, and community, and to highlight how that work also closely aligns with our 4 strategic goal areas of our strategic plan, Empower 2025. First up, we are so proud to recognize a valued former employee recently with the dedication of the Hugo A. Owens Auditorium. In her honor, Dr. Debbie Hunley-Stooks. Her career with Chesapeake Public Schools began in 1982 and spanned several decades. One of her proudest accomplishments included serving as the first principal of Hugo Owens Middle School. She served there from 1996 to 2006, and on December 14, 2023, the school community, family, friends, and colleagues joined to celebrate her impact with the dedication of their auditorium. It was my honor to be there, along with several of our board members, to help the Mustang community recognize her achievements and legacy. Dr. Hunley-Stooks was also in attendance at the 56th Annual Freedom Fund celebration hosted by the Chesapeake branch of the NAACP earlier this year, where she continues to devote her time and talents. It was a true honor to be at the event and to be recognized by the Chesapeake NAACP for outstanding service and leadership alongside several other incredible individuals that you can see pictured here. I'd like to sincerely thank the group for the invitation and the recognition. And of course, I saw Bishop Kim Brown in here earlier. He was recognized on that, and that's during that special event as well. Another very special ceremony that took place right before winter break was our International Baccalaureate graduation ceremony. Our IB students from the class of 2023 returned to Oscar Smith High School last week, the last week of school that week, for awarding their IB diplomas and certificates. These students completed a rigorous course of study and completed comprehensive exams in order to earn the distinction of an IB graduate. I'd like to thank Mrs. Swigert, who joined me on stage at the celebration to recognize these outstanding students. The Career and Technical Education, or CTE department, partnered with Virginia Beach Public Schools this school year to host the DECA District Leadership Competition for eligible students enrolled in marketing education class and registered as a DECA member. The DECA District Leadership Competition was held on Thursday, December 14th at Virginia Wesleyan University. Participating students had the opportunity to compete in events that are aligned with the national curriculum standards in the career clusters of marketing, business management and administration, finance, hospitality, and tourism. First place overall winners will have the opportunity to represent our district at the state leadership competition in Virginia Beach in early March. If sticking to a budget is part of your New Year's resolution, then maybe one of our high schoolers can help you. 5 of our high schools were recently awarded top honors for their performance on the WISE financial literacy test. Grassfield High School earned the top award and is a Platinum Star School for the 2nd year in a row for achieving over 90% pass rate. Deep Creek High, Great Bridge High, Hickory High, and Western Branch High were all recognized as Blue Star schools for achieving an 80% pass rate. In addition, 20 of our teachers from all 7 of our high schools were named Gold Star teachers for achieving at least a 93% pass rate. Congratulations to these students and teachers. I'd also like to offer another huge congratulations to our Chittum Bears. Earlier this year, actually at the end of last year, I shared with you that they had been announced as a National Blue Ribbon School by the U.S. Department of Education. Since that announcement, school leaders visited Washington, D.C. for their formal award presentation and then came back to present the plaque and banner to the entire school community. Of course, we had some of our board members on hand to join the celebration. Take a look.
So today was our National Blue Ribbon Celebration Day. We were recognized in November as a National Blue Ribbon School by the United States Department of Education, and today is the day we were celebrating with our staff, students, some school board members, our superintendent, and some of his cabinet members.
Your school proud of you. Your superintendent's proud of you. We're so excited to be here today. Congratulations, students and staff, on a job well done. Thank you.
There were only 353 schools in the entire United States, to include private and charter schools as well as public schools, that received this award. We are one of 7 public schools in the state of Virginia, and our school earned this designation due to our closing of the achievement gap for students.
I like Chitham because I like when my teacher teaches me math.
And each of you are getting a little bit of sticky note today, and you're going to put a little thing about what you love about Chitham and add it to our blue ribbon.
I love Chitham because each day I see my friends. I go in college. I want to study about helping people.
Our students and staff have worked really hard, and so they really deserve this special day.
Madam Chair, we had a great time at that event. This completes my spotlight for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Cotton. Last on our agenda this evening is board member items. Does any board member have an item to bring before the group?
Thank you. I just wanted to make a quick comment. I wanted to thank the ladies with the sorority. I'm sorry I cannot remember the full name of your sorority, but I really appreciate you being here, and I appreciate what you're doing for our community. I believe tonight you said you had 26 applicants from our 7 high schools, and you currently have $14,000 in scholarships to give, and you expect that number to rise. I believe that that's commendable, and I thank you for what you're doing, and I appreciate your efforts. And I thank you for staying to the end of the meeting. That's also commendable. Thank you.
I'll do it.
Ms. Dean?
So we had a couple of speakers tonight that mentioned and touched on varying degrees around mental health. We saw it in the survey results for the calendar, and so I thought it was appropriate to just bring awareness to the community, but also Dr. Cotton, to yourself, and to Dr. Miller about a small business that's opened up here in Chesapeake. I had the privilege of being at a ribbon cutting. Thank you, Sam Boone, for being there as well. But Dragonfly Counseling and Consulting opened their doors to Chesapeake, and the founders of this organization are bringing over 30 years of mental health experience, and they're located, centrally at the corner of Cedar Road and Battlefield. And I think it's really exciting, and I appreciate, members of City Council and the mayor being there, because I think it shows everyone's recognition that this is a serious problem, especially when we're talking about adolescents. And I think it shows the commitment that the city has to making sure that we have services available for the help. So I just wanted to make you both aware, because I there could be partnerships in the future with the schools. I know it's hard to find qualified resources to help with this, and so I think this is a great addition to the city.
Mr. Mercer?
Yes, Dr. Cotton mentioned that Dr. Brown was here, and I was talking to him before, and he and his wife both, is she still here? Nope, she left too. Okay, but he's going to be retiring at the end of February, and I can't let that go without saying what a great relationship he's had in support of Chesapeake Public Schools. I mean, there have been time and time again that they have taken care of schools, that they have done all sorts of money raising and things like that. They have been great partners in this community. I hope he's going to stay around a little and not be in Florida all the time, but we appreciate him so much. Also, had the opportunity to get up early and go to Thurgood Marshall this week. I know Dr. Cotton was there along with others, and saw Under Sheriff Dave Rosado do his Be a Hero, Not a Zero, anti-bullying. And I want to tell you, if you haven't had a chance to see it, you need to go see it. That fella is a magician. When he pulled so many donuts out of his nose, I couldn't believe it. And he had those children that could be doing anything else, just eating out of the palm of his hand, and more importantly, listening and being a part of something that I hope will bear some fruit in their lives and in their relationship with others. Then lastly, last night, I went to my computer, my big computer I have at my desktop, and it always comes up, or you'll like this, it comes up on Pilot Online as the first thing. And what did I see at the top but a banner announcing our own John McCormick as congratulating him on being 40 to watch under 40. You know, congratulations, sir. What a great honor. Yeah.
Seeing no other board member comments, I do want to take just a moment to wish a very happy birthday to Mrs. Diane Edwards celebrating next week. We hope you have a wonderful birthday. And with that, I will call this meeting adjourned.